Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for joining us again this week. This week, I have an incredible woman. Her name is Tara, but her nickname is Tiny, and we will be calling her Tiny because she has such a great persona behind that nickname. Hi, Tiny.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for receiving me.
My pleasure. So, this woman who is still so very young has such a story, and today what we're going to try to do is really bring you her story without going into too much details, but with really, extracting all of the strength and the good that came out of that story. So Tara was, Tiny. Tiny is so cute. It's just like you want to hug it, it's tiny. A few years ago, Tiny was stabbed 18 times and left for dead, and she survived that. So I'm going to give her the opportunity to give us a story behind that, but also what may have led her to, end up in this horrible situation. So Tiny, share your story a little bit with us.
Sure, I'll try to cut it down as much as possible because, explaining something that had happened over, an incident and then almost 10 years now, there's a lot. So I'll keep it as short as I can. So at that point, it was in August of 2013. I was just getting out of a relationship, a very toxic relationship that I was in for 5 years. And when I left, let's just say that unfortunately, the person I was with didn't want to leave it at that. And then one evening, as I was coming back home, I had moved into a new apartment. My ex was in the apartment. He was waiting for me there, and he attacked me, stabbed me 18 times, and left me for dead. Now, I don't remember anything from the event, so I can't really go into details, but I think it's important to create an image in terms of how violent this crime was, because it was someone that I did share my life with for 5 years. I woke up in the hospital and I was in a coma for 3 months. It took 9 liters of blood just to keep me alive. I had stitches from the right side of my neck to the left side of my neck because I was stabbed 6 times directly in the neck. I had stitches on my face. I was stabbed under the chin, in the cheek. My lung was perforé, so I think that's how you would say it in French. Multiple times in my back, so my lung and my kidney both got touched. And I basically had to be open from the bottom of my breast all the way to underneath my belly button, just so that, they can take care of really stitching me up from the inside out. I feel extremely blessed to be here. And the journey was definitely one that was long, but like you said, managed to turn something really good into it.
So, I have a few questions there because, first of all, it's such a violent attack. And it doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from someone, like you said, who you spent 5 years with. So what was your first, because I know you don't recall anything, but when you woke up from your coma, what was your first reaction? First of all, tell us, help us, enlighten us into when you are in a coma, do you really hear people around you? What's going on? Because 3 months in a coma is it's very long. So what's going on while you're in there? And then when you woke up, what was going through your head?
Yeah, I love this question actually because it's something that I never really talked about in other interviews that I had done. And that was one of the most I would say, unusual experiences I've ever been through in my life. So it was 3 weeks actually in the coma. And
I'm sorry.
it's okay, 3 months would have been really long. Thank God it was less. But yeah, so I basically, the first thing that had occurred was I remember seeing a white light and just hearing, come back, come back, come back. And sometimes it might sound weird when I say these things, but it made me a very spiritual person going through this experience. Like now I relate to light and the sun a lot. Like, anyways, I'm not going to get into that because I'll sound very strange. But all that to say, I feel like I was pulled back here for a reason. And for the 3 weeks I was in a coma, when I woke up from my coma, I don't remember the incident. I don't remember getting stabbed. I don't remember being attacked. I don't remember seeing my ex. I even went through therapies where they tried to do tricks with my eyes and make me recall the event, but it never worked. But when I was in the coma, I knew what had happened to me because I had dreams about it. So when I was in a coma, it's almost like you're in another life. It's almost like you're there. You're experiencing a different reality. So when I would wake up, I didn't know the difference between when I was in my coma or reality. And I had some really, really, really strange dreams. Like I had one about Justin Bieber getting kidnapped, and I wanted to save Justin Bieber. And I woke up telling my family that I wanted to save Justin Bieber. And my mom and my family around me, they really thought that I had lost it and that I wouldn't come back to normal. But thank God I did. But that's the funny part. But on the less funny part, I did have dreams about being in my apartment and that my ex wanted to stab me. So my mind, the way I make sense of it now is that my mind basically went into survival mode and blocked the incident to protect me. But I was recollecting somewhat the event, but distorted through my coma.
Well, it's almost a good thing though that you did forget it. And there's a question I want to ask. So what would have been the benefit of bringing back the images for you when you went in therapy?
In my opinion, they see it as part of the healing. But as I discussed with you, we had this discussion together, is that for me, talking about the past was actually creating a lot more anxiety. Whenever I would go into therapy and I would try to recollect the event and talk about it over and over again, I feel that that was causing me a lot of anxiety and a lot of pain. So again, that's one of the things that had turned me to self-medicate with other methods. But that is how the professionals see it, is that I guess for some people, maybe it is helpful to remember the event so that you could accept it and let go.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I prefer just moving along.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a little detail in your attack that it's weird how, well, I feel safer with my kids when they're with someone else. You know, when they're not alone. I always have the impression that nothing's going to happen if their friends are with them. And you were not even alone when you got stabbed. Your friend got stabbed as well 8 times. A guy that, you know, technically in our mind would have been there to protect you. But the fact is, when someone is that gone, I would say about your ex, and that violent, you know, they will, they can achieve what they want to achieve. But your friend made it out as well. Okay, right?
Yeah, thank God.
Awesome. So, okay, let's move through past this traumatic event. And you know what, for those of you who are just listening, I recommend you like go on YouTube, watch the interview. Tiny is so gorgeous, and she, yeah, like a gorgeous girl, and it's just not the physicality of the beauty. It's also like she's oozing positive energy, and it's almost like you know what life is worth now.
Oh, totally. But it wasn't always like that, right?
Yes. So what happened after? So you get out of the coma, and you know, in our mind it's like, yeah, she made it, happy, so let's go celebrate. But in real life, what's the path after that?
Yeah, so first, I like the fact that you encourage people to actually watch the interview because I think it's important to see it, to see that we can live happier lives after something has happened to us. And when we look at me, no one would ever guess that I had gone through something so traumatic. So I think that is very inspiring to many people that are experiencing challenges is to see that we can make it through and we can be happy and we can put things behind us. So yeah, good, a good one on that. As far as after, as far as myself, I went through multiple stages. At first, I would say, in shock. So I think again that goes back on your question as well. Is like what does therapy try to achieve by making you recollect the event? Is that they want you to go through the 4 stages of healing, which is usually shock. So shock is when you don't want to realize what had happened, so you're in survival mode, you're just adapting, you're trying to move forward, but you're not actually dealing with the situation or your emotions. Then eventually, and some people unfortunately get stuck there forever, and that's where you go into depression, anxiety, and you end up identifying with your past. But when you accept it, so you have the shock and then you have the accepting point, that's when you could actually move forward and recreate yourself a new identity. So at first, the first few years was really just, I was in shock. I wanted to go back to work right away. At that point, I was working in the bank as a financial advisor. And I was also at McGill studying in human resources management. And I just wanted the event to be behind me. I just wanted to go back to my regular life and be regular Tara and forget about the whole thing. But the reality is when you go through something like that, you're never going to ever be yourself again. So that was the first thing. And when I realized that I couldn't go back to school because I had severe PTSD that was affecting my ability to concentrate and to study. And then at the same time, it was also affecting my career because, I couldn't be as present. My mood would fluctuate a lot. Some days I was happy, some days I was sad. My customer service wasn't the same. People would ask me a lot of questions. Some days I could take it, some days I couldn't. And eventually, while I was just in so much pain as well, that I started turning to alcohol to self-medicate because I didn't know how to deal with it. I had this image of how my life should be. I had this plan of where I was going, and my whole life, to my view, was falling apart. I was seeing everything fall apart in front of me. And I think that's what really started to make a downward spiral is I was being very narrow-minded and I wasn't seeing, hey, I need to deal with this now and I can get my life back after. It was, oh my God, I can't go back to school. Oh my God, I'm losing my career. Oh my God, the person I love just tried to kill me. And that was turning me to drinking, and the drinking gradually took over my life for a very extended period of time, I would say.
Yes, and anyone, whether it's after a trauma or not, it's difficult to function while you drink. Some master it, but it's always like functioning at a certain level. So to function at a certain level, you need to basically erase the others. Like people know I'm in recovery. For me, I was very high functioning alcoholic. I was achieving and everything, but then I needed to shut down in all of the rest. But you needed to heal yourself. So, it's difficult. You really had two different paths that you needed to be present for. And I'm so happy for you that, at some point you realized, okay, this drinking is not bringing me that much. What was your like, I call it the day of disgust or the bottom of the barrel, or, usually when we decide to stop drinking, we know we're going to put ourselves through something hard. So usually there has to be a reason that is bigger than our fear of stopping to make us stop. So what was it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a turning point at some point for most people. And I truly hope that, for those that haven't found it yet, that they do, and that no matter what, you keep looking. Because when I was off of work, that was when it was the most difficult because I had nothing to focus on. I had no structure. I had no goals. I had I had, a toxic surrounding. I was hanging around in bars. So this wasn't conducive to healing. And so many bad things were happening. It's like I got into car accidents. I was crying all the time. I would spend days sick and I couldn't even get out of bed. And it was really the bottom. And eventually, I don't know how to explain it to you, but it's like as if I got fed up of myself. I got fed up of being in pain. I got fed up of crying. And
you got
eventually,
to you got to your day of disgust. That's
I think it's like that, but it's like I had my values to fall back on, the fact that I always wanted to achieve something in my life and I wanted to achieve my career and I wanted to be successful. And eventually it started to sink back in. Like it was a gradual thing that had happened over several years. So I believe it was back in 2015, just to give you an idea. And I quit drinking in 2018. So it was a progressive, it's not from one day to another. So what had happened is initially I wanted to take my life back. I got fed up of being in pain and suffering. And I said to my mom, I said, listen, I'm going back to school. So I had done some therapy. I was doing therapy on a weekly basis, which gave me enough strength to actually reduce the amount of drinking. Okay, so I didn't stop at this point. I was struggling to stop. I was trying so hard to stop. But that was enough. Basically going to therapy once a week was enough to give me an accountability system, give me someone to talk to, gain new perspectives. So this was really important. And when I went to therapy, what I had realized by getting help, by seeking help, was that I was living in the past. So I was repeating the story in my head over and over, trying to comprehend rather than focus on my feeling. And my therapist made me understand as well that my life wasn't over, that, I was being narrow-viewed about it, but I need to focus on my healing. And once I focus on my healing, then I would gain the strength, to move forward. So that gave me the hope of, wait, okay, I could actually have my life back. Okay, I could actually work on myself. Let me do this. I don't have to suffer. So that gave me motivation, knowing that there was a possibility to, gain back that momentum in my life. Now, on top of it, she also made me realize that I had to work my mind. So, my mindset, when you go through something very difficult, you're going to wake up with the emotions of the past. So what I had to do was start telling new stories in my head. So I started listening to a lot of positive podcasts of, like Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, right away in the morning, so that I could change my mood, because a negative mood over an extended period of time becomes a state. And that's what brings us into anxiety and depression. So by listening to these positive podcasts, I was able to realize, okay, I'm not the only one that went through something intense, and that, yes, I could make it through, and it would give me a little mood boost. So these were the things I was doing for my mind. These were the things I was doing for accountability. I had started to eliminate all the toxic people and the toxic things. And I got back into training as well. So training on a regular basis and eating healthy. And all these things in 2015, about over a 9-month period, I would say. I also did my personal training certificate before going back to school as part of a personal project and passion, to test the waters if I was ready to go back to school and go back to work and gain back my career. So with that, I gained enough confidence to get back into a routine, a work routine, and go back to school. And I remember my mom telling me, Caroline, I told her at dinner, I'm like, I'm going back to university and I'm going back to get my career. And they all looked at me like I was crazy, because a few months before, I'd wake up at her house with hangovers. I'd sneak into her house so that she'd find me on the couch a wreck. So they were like, you need more time. And I was like, no, I'm not taking more time. I'm taking my life back. So at that point, I went back to work and I went back to school, and I was very, very, very motivated to gain my life back. And I did extremely well, Caroline. I finished my university degree. I got a promotion as an account manager for the Royal Bank, which was the position that I wanted. But what people didn't realize is that I was still struggling with alcohol. I was, like you said, I was functioning, I was performing, I was doing great. But man, I would lose sometimes weekends and take off for like a week or 2 weeks and just blame it on my PTSD. And I got away with it. I got away with it because it was poor Tara. She's been through something, but no one really knew that in reality I was suffering from the biggest challenge of my life, which was with alcohol. So all that to say, what was the turning point for me, what did it for me after all that was in 2017, towards the end of 2017. So 2 years of trying to take over this habit that was really, really holding me back from being the best version of myself, is that I had an incident where I completely humiliated myself. And I think that I'm a person that I have a lot of pride in who I am. And that's the reason why I always chase to have a big career and a big office and do these big things, is because it's part of, I think I was kind of seeking some type of validation. And it was Christmas Day, and I had gone to a boyfriend's house at that point that I was dating. And I got so drunk that in front of all the family, I started telling people off and spitting on the ground, and to the point that I had to be dragged out of the house. And the next day, I didn't remember a single thing. And to me, I was like, this is it. I was so used to everybody forgiving me for my bad behavior, because no one really knew about it except for my family. And you know how family are, they forgive you for everything. But this time I wasn't being forgiven, and I was being told how it is, that I'm a drunk, that I have a problem, that no one was taking my excuses. And for me, that was it. I was like, never again. I'm getting my life together.
So basically that was a good thing that happened, that, you were not supported once more in your craziness of being drunk. And I can so relate to what you're saying, because, yes, eventually people around us will forgive, or they get so sick of it they just don't say anything anymore. They're like, oh, she's in her phase, she's going to be okay tomorrow. But then when you meet other people that have higher expectations from you and you do stuff like that, they'll be like, what are you doing? And I get also that, your family, with everything that you went through, they didn't want to, yes, we tend on putting it on the event always. But the way to really help someone is to actually not enable them to do this kind of stuff. And it's to actually help them take responsibility, which is, really it's the title of the podcast for a reason, because it's really when you started taking responsibility for what you were doing and who you were, that you started to heal. And I also want to add, you said it took you like 2 years. There's so many of us, like for me, I have a hard time putting years on how many years did it take me, but I know that for the longest time I was self-pacing myself, like, oh, I can do it. I can do 3 days on, 2 days off. I had all those kind of, like, I did so many different trials, and it was all in the hope of not saying I need to stop. But I think that, if you're sitting there listening to this podcast and you're thinking, if Tiny said some stuff that you're like, wow, I can relate to this, or I can relate to that. I believe we have a drinking problem when alcohol starts managing your life instead of the opposite. Like when you start losing control and alcohol has the control. Like for me, I was controlling everything in my life but that thing. It was just like, I can't win on that. So at some point it goes into the stage of acceptance. You need to accept, like, I'm a very strong person. I'm a very strong woman. I can achieve whatever I want, but I can't beat this shit. Whoops. Yep. I can't beat this thing. So when you took responsibility, for you, it came into the form of getting healthier. Like, did you go to AA like most people think is necessary, or how did you stop?
Yeah, I love everything that you just said too. If you don't mind, I'm just going to add to that. Like a lot of times that's the thing, is that we don't talk about having a drinking problem because alcohol is so socially accepted. And I do agree with you that once it starts interfering with our relationships, with our work, when we start missing work because we're drinking, or when we feel guilty about it, or we lack control. Because I meet so many women that drink because they're stressed at night, but that's not a reason. You know what I mean? That too is a sign that there's something bigger going on. So yeah, we have to be very, very, very honest with ourselves. Real change begins with real honesty. And for myself, taking responsibility, what we mean by that more specifically is, in the past, I would always blame it on my PTSD. It wasn't my fault I was drinking. It was my PTSD's fault. I've been through a lot. I deserve to have a drink, So this is a lot of the things that we tell ourselves when we drink, when we have a drinking problem. I had a bad day. I'm stressed. I deserve to drink. Like, that is the dialogue that is occurring in our mind. And at that point, when I really embarrassed myself, it was like I had that moment, like you say, that aha moment that was like, what the hell am I saying? If I can't have one drink, how many times am I going to lie to myself and go to a bar and say I can have just one? And then it ends up being one too many and something bad happens. And that aha moment made me realize that I am in control. And if I know that I can't drink, I have to make the decision to change every single thing in my life that is creating a challenge for me to stop. Because going to AA, I tried it, it doesn't work for me. Going to therapy wasn't enough. So I had to start looking at everything in my life that was creating a test that I could not pass. And that's when I decided to go a step further, and I signed up for my first fitness competition. The reason why I had done it is because I needed a positive distraction, and I needed to have goals. I needed someone to fall back on, and I needed also a process that was going to keep me in have a positive distraction, I would say, because the therapy wasn't giving me that, right? I would go to therapy, but then my Friday, I would get anxiety and I'd get bored because I wasn't building new habits, which is necessary to overcome addiction, build new habits, make new friends. So as soon as I'd have anxiety, I would fall back on old behaviors. So having this fitness competition helped me in the sense that my Fridays, I had something to do. I was doing yoga on Friday nights now. And also I had a reason to tell people I can't hang out with you. I'm going to the gym. So that was a big one, was having a reason for other people around me. I decided to completely isolate myself for 9 months so I could focus on me. And honestly, I would say, I have to be honest, the first meeting with my coach, I actually missed it because I was hungover. And again, she had told me, she said, if you don't get your drinking together, she's like, I am not coaching you. And for me, that was another turning point, because now I had to make a choice between what I really wanted in my life. So that's when I decided it's going to go. And after 3 months of not drinking, I would say that I've never felt so good. It was the first time ever since my event that I genuinely, authentically felt happy. I was putting proper nutrition in my body. I had more energy. I was eating right. My body was changing. I mean, it was just, I was living my passion as, something I always dreamed of that I never thought I was going to do. So 3 months for me of not drinking, which is a lot of things, which is something also I tell women today, is give yourself the chance, because a lot of times we feel like we're missing something. I'm not going to have fun. What am I going to do with my friends? I always say you have to give yourself the chance to live differently so you can make a proper assessment of how you feel, And for me, 3 months, I find, is if you are building new behaviors, if you're doing new activities, 3 months, a decision to commit for 3 months could be a life-changing decision. And for me, that's exactly what it was.
You're so absolutely right on that. Create new habits. And I can relate to you when you say, we're scared of, like, what am I going to do to have fun? And what am I going to do on Friday nights? And what am I going to do on Saturdays? For me, it was like, I could not comprehend that people would get together for supper without a bottle of wine.
Without drinking, just like, yeah.
Well, what's the point? Just eat at your place and they will eat at their place, It took me a while to actually go for a dry supper. And people around me were supportive, so they didn't drink either. Now I'm totally fine, going with people that drink. But my point is, you're right, into look at where where are you at now? And of course, quite often when we have a drinking problem, we tend to surround ourselves with people who support that problem, with people who have the same problem, or with people who don't realize we have a problem and enable it without necessarily knowing or wanting it. So that's why, your 3 months new habit, you change your friends. It's hard, but that basically, if someone goes in rehab, that's what they do. They isolate you for a while and be like, you need to change your environment because we're strong to stop, but you can't be stronger than what you are in the moment, and changing your environment is crucial. And then you went on to win this competition, right?
Yes, so that's where everything got really amazing. Was not only since I was 19 years old, I always wanted to do a fitness competition, and always felt it was for other people. It wasn't for me. That I couldn't look like that because I was putting so much effort in the gym and not seeing the results that I wanted. Again, not realizing that the alcohol was a big reason why I wasn't achieving my physical goals, and now I realize that today. But yeah, removing alcohol, removing toxins, focusing on my health allowed me to go on stage and actually win my first competition. And only 9 months after that, win my pro cards on my second competition.
Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Like, this is amazing because for you, it was really a double, triple, quadruple challenge because those competition in itself, like I have friends who did some, it's crazy discipline, crazy discipline. And I mean, for someone who's super healthy to start with, it is quite the challenge. So congratulations for that. And then after or during all of that, you chose to empower others, to feel better about themselves. And one thing I love about you, when we were talking pre-interview, you said, yeah, now I coach women. And if they drink, I don't coach them. And I was just like, you go, girl. Explain why you have this mentality.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I love sharing this because that's what makes my business very different from anything else that's actually out there. Is, like we said, the importance about taking responsibility. Well, when we want this process of fitness completely, not just changed my body, it completely transformed my life. And I was building a career in the bank, and I realized right after winning my competition that that's not what I'm supposed to do, that I survived this event because I am supposed to help others. I'm supposed to show them the way that we can live happy, healthy, abundant lives, that we can accomplish our goals. But there's two main things that we need to do, is that we need to take responsibility for our life. We need to take responsibility for our actions, take responsibility for our happiness. And then we need to live in alignment. It needs to be super clear what we want to accomplish, and we need to put all our energy towards that. And that's where most people are not in balance. They want to achieve, for example, a fitness body, but they also want to drink on the weekends. And it doesn't work that way. I've done it for 8 years. And we need to be clear on what our motivation is. So, for example, when you're stressed at night, but you're drinking because you're stressed and you want to relax, well, alcohol actually keeps cortisol in the blood. So it actually elevates your stress level. It interrupts your sleep, and it keeps you in that toxic circle. So because I understood this, having experienced it myself, I made it clear that when people come to see me about a physical transformation, that is what it's going to take. If you want to transform your body, then you have to align all of your actions with that. And I will not take anyone's investment or anyone's time unless they're willing to do what's necessary. And as a result of using this approach, I've helped so many women, completely change their lives. I have women that are 57, 64, 40, 35, that they've achieved transformations that are unbelievable. But the best part is they're realizing to what extent they're happy when they're actually healthy. So yeah, for me, it's my values. I live by it. And because I live by it, it's reflected in my clients' results. But, my goal from all that is to demonstrate that, we don't have to have these distractions, that we can be be happy with our body, be confident, feel good. But we have to be willing to take responsibility and live in alignment.
I love that. And it's okay that you are you have a very focused group that you want to work with. And that's another thing that I really like about you. It's that, you know what you want, and now you won't settle for anything else. And taking
Absolutely.
responsibility is also that in any area of your life is stop settling. When you want something, just go for it and stop settling for the rest. And
Yeah.
that's a bit what we try to do when we try to only drink on the weekend or stuff like that. We try to settle and find something that will help
Doesn't
us
work.
together. No,
It
I
doesn't
know a
work.
lot of people who do Ironmans, like my brother's sister. And when they do that, they don't drink. It doesn't go together. And the thing is, like, forget just transforming the body. For me, what exercise and training does, and I don't do it to your extent, but I just restarted recently to lift weights because I was only doing cardio before. And I'm finding a different transformation. And I'm like, oh, that's
Good.
cool. But it also really plays with your mindset in beautiful ways. And
So
I
much.
think that that's really where we need to focus. And I know that some people judge those fitness competition, but what we need to understand from that is that it's people who are pushing themselves to the extreme. It's an extreme goal and they achieve it. So, don't ever judge anyone, just congratulate them because it is quite the achievement. So now, Tiny, you are giving classes online and you're coaching online. How can people reach you and ask you to help them?
Yeah, thank you so much. So basically, I do online courses. I have a community of women, and we do either personal programs, but mainly I like to have that community so that we could really help each other out and give support, because that's something that's lacking often when you want to make that change. Like we had said, Caroline, is, sometimes you don't have that new environment. So I try to create that safe environment that is supportive and women could, exchange while they attain their objectives. So everything is online, personalized programs, live training sessions, live yoga sessions, so that we're taking care of the body and also taking care of the mind, but also focusing on education, because I do think that education is one of the key players when it comes to making change. So anyone that wants to reach me can reach me through my Instagram at tinyt, just a t.fitness. So my Instagram is where they can reach out.
Awesome. And I will put it with the podcast. And just to finish, before leaving you with the last word, you achieved another one of your dreams. Basically, you moved somewhere where it's way warmer than here, where I'm at. So, congratulations on that too. So you moved to Mexico. I'm really happy for you, because who wouldn't want to? And that's with the beauty of online business now. You can work from everywhere. So we're so lucky. But what would you leave people with?
Um, that's hard because there's so many things. But I think the most important thing is that when we feel that, we're not living in alignment, we all know it. We all know when something's not right in our life. And oftentimes we don't tap into that conscious part. And that's why my company is called Transformation Through Conscious Choice, is because often we're living passively our lives. But when we really tap into how we feel, about situations, relationships, drinking, our body, I think it's really important that we identify how we feel and that we act on it. There's so many signs, for example, having fluctuating mood. So having a bad mood, having impatience, having trouble sleeping, waking up, looking at yourself in the mirror, not liking yourself, feeling like you need to drink just to get through your days. So I think we do all have the ability to live our best lives, to live fulfilling, happy, healthy lives. But it all starts with really tapping into how we feel, what we want to achieve, and then taking responsibility to make conscious choices.
Yes. And you know what you've accomplished is hard. But what I like to tell people is that waking up always hungover is hard. Not being healthy is hard. Being super fit is hard. So it's basically like choose your hard. What heart are you willing to settle for? And again, Tiny, like, congratulations for turning your life around this way. You've now been sober for 4 years. This is huge. And not only that, is that you're helping people to also just be healthier. And it's not only for people who want to quit drinking, it's for people who want to have an amazing health coach and an amazing fitness coach. So to everyone, all the listeners out there, thank you so much for being there. And you know that you can reach me anytime if you have any suggestion, comments, info@simplycaroline.com. And I will put all of the information of Tara/Tiny with the podcast. And thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tiny, Tara.
Thank you.